day, and it's completely correct.
Yeah.
So I don't think he wanted to distract people.
Yeah, no, that was always just very interesting, intriguing. And I mean, yeah, so he started as a caller on these shortwave shows. Pretty sure they were shortwave radio. Then later he had the RBN show for a time, and he was his own host, and he would get the callers call in at the end of the show. I always thought that was probably my favorite part of the show, is when the callers would call in, actually. I know how you felt about that.
Yeah, I did enjoy it, because you would have some of the most interesting people.
Yeah, right.
Would call in some real characters. Yeah, would call in on that really low quality, sort of crackly phone, connection.
Yep.
Asking all kinds of random questions out the blue about all kinds of things, and he always treated everybody with respect, unless they were being blatantly confrontational or whatever, and trying to stir things up. Then he would always treat people with respect and kindness, and that was.
Yeah, I mean that's true classic radio to me. Is Alan Watt taking calls on his RBN show, and to see what that I was always that was legitimately entertaining. That was a good part of the show, and to see what his answer was to certain questions was always interesting too. It's like, oh, okay, that's how he answered that. Okay.
He had an answer for everything. He knew something about everything. Something interesting too. Yeah. Whatever question you asked him about, he would have an angle that you'd never considered before. Which I found immensely valuable. Yeah. And interesting over the years. Yeah.
And then I don't know if I've ever gotten. I feel like I've talked with you about this before, Adam, but I'm going to bring it up here. Is that Alan started getting a cult following? I believe this was when, in the earlier days of his RBN show, he had, kind of like almost a fan club, like an unofficial fan club, I would call it, online. And it was I would say the president of this fan club was a guy who at the time going by the name Andre. And
Andre.
You know this story? Have I gone into this with you before?
I think so, a long time ago. Yeah, we've talked about this a long time ago. Yeah.
So Andre he started on Myspace. He had one of these MySpace profiles that was just riddled with links to all sorts of like conspiracy topics or whatever. So he got kind of renowned himself with a MySpace page, and then he turned that into outlawjournalism.com. And then he had a forum on Outlaw Journalism. And on the forum, that's where, like, really Alan Watt was held up as, like, the best voice out there in the alternative and whatnot. So there was a lot of people that really liked Alan Watt, including Andre. Mm-hmm. But the relationship soured there, where I'm trying to remember how it all worked, but basically they turned on Alan at one point. And eventually, Andre was just like, oh, yeah, Alan Watt's like full of it. He's terrible. He's disinfo, blah, 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 blah. But previously, they were his biggest proponents, and they'd have like all these forums dedicated to stuff he said. And that was crazy. And then, of course, Outlaw Journalism only lasted so long before Andre started using his name, Andrew Anglin, and he made his new website, The Daily Stormer, which he does to this day. That's who he is. So Andre became Andrew Anglin, and he became a extreme right-wing neo-Nazi. Yeah,
there you go. I mean, it's possible that this is some loose cannon out there. I mean, they do exist. Yeah. But also, it's equally possible that this was some effort to set him up so they could take him down again, Yeah. So, create a massive following, push all this momentum and this energy towards them with a leader, and then get the leader to turn against them and try and turn everybody else against them, or at least destroy his reputation in some way. Yeah. That's totally possible, especially if this guy's going to become some leader of some neo-Nazi, whatever. Yeah. I mean,
it's bizarre. It's bizarre.
Yeah, I mean, extremists do exist, but I'm suspicious of them all.
Yeah, so, I hear you, man. You have to be. It's like, where did these wacky ideas come from all of a sudden?
Yeah, it's like, what what do you think you're going to achieve with this, apart from, making everybody who's maybe a little bit like you look bad, or making everybody who's not in the mainstream look bad, or anybody that ever has associated with you look bad. So,
well, yeah. I mean, I myself I shared emails with Andre back in the day when he was still Andre. We would email here and there. So I think he emailed me first about my documentary, and we talked here and there. And then eventually, that was a long time ago. I stopped doing that. And then I just watched the story. I think it was even before the falling out with Alan. And then I just kind of watched from afar to see what happened. And then, one thing leads to another. Like, oh, Daily Stormer now. It's like, It's just these are the things that happen in this weird sort of world that we're in. And it's just, it's just these things. And someone like Alan, as because he was high profile within this. Like, everybody knows who he is,
Well, he was regularly on Alex Jones for some years.
Yes.
He was doing primetime Alex Jones interviews for years. He was on Red Ice Radio when that was hot and big for years. Yep. He did that 2-hour Prison Planet interview, which is still one of the best ever. Would totally recommend that to anybody who hasn't seen it.
Yep.
There's still a couple of copies online. So yeah, he was fairly well known. Yeah.
So someone like himself is going to run into all sorts of stuff like this as they go about stuff. And so, you just get like a front row seat to the insanity. And you get the crazed fans too, which at the bare minimum was what was going on there with Outlaw Journalism, but if not something more nefarious, as you're saying, who we don't really know, but certainly it's something that he had to deal with.
Yeah, he talked about it, and there was plenty of stuff on his website about the troubles that he'd been having with people trying to basically pawn off his work, like steal it, copy it, sell it, distribute it, with it, whatever, making a mess and trying to run him out of business, all kinds of stuff. So this was present in his life for some years. I know that much. I don't know the details. However, didn't that guy Andre eventually put together some kind of like a dossier on Alan, where he had this big theory about why Alan's a disinfo agent?
I think so. Yes, it was a big post he put up, like this, that, the other thing. Like I only like bits and pieces are coming back to me. Like, I recall him saying like the cadence of Alan's voice is meant to like put you in a trance and things like that. Like,
yeah. I remember that. I think I remember reading this on a PDF actually.
Yeah.
And I believe, I could be wrong here, but I think you actually sent it to me.
Probably.
Yeah, but this is going back like almost 10 years now.
Oh, you know what else was in there?
So,
they were accusing him of ripping off the material of this really wacky guy.
Oh, yeah. Glen Kealey, that's right.
Remember that character?
Yeah. Well, that's right. That's what was in the dossier. The Glen Kealey connection.
Yeah. So like, Andrew was like so upset that he was coming from this angle, like, Alan Watts always complaining about copyright issues and people stealing his stuff, but in reality, he stole his stuff from Glen Kealey, so he's a hypocrite. Is I think the main crux of what his argument was.
Basically, that was it. I remember it's coming back to me the more we speak to it, and it was basically that.
Yeah.
But
talk about a fringe character, Glen Kealey. My gosh, I don't know how many people know of him, but man, that's all. He had his own. He was basically a not very successful cult leader, is what Glen Kealey was. And I remember one person in particular from the Outlaw Journalism Forum had moved over to finding Glen Kealey and basically became like the protege, and like I think he lived with Glen Kealey at one point, and like so he would just verbatim spout out this weird Glen Kealey stuff, which I don't think we have time to explain again. Glen Kealey view of the world, but it's something else.
Yeah, well, I mean, I just remember reading that whatever. Yeah, PDF dossier, whatever it was, about how Alan Watt is this disinfo agent who's stolen a bunch of other people's work, mostly from Glen Kealey, and is some plant, or he's a setup, or whatever, you know. And I remember reading it all, thinking that there was absolutely nothing in any of this that was the least bit convincing. So, whoever that was, whoever Andre was. Whatever. I don't care. I think it's pretty clearly bullshit.
But Alan himself, I mean, I think to me, he has always come across as genuine, legitimate. And
Absolutely.
I think most people just like get that. He just kind of exudes that because he doesn't. Again, he's a misfit. He was a continual misfit. Like all these different places he'd pop up. Alex Jones, Red Ice, the early days of shortwave Christian right-wing radio. Yeah. He would appear on all these different spots where he got notoriety, which is good. His ideas got out there, which I think is what he was getting his main plan. But then he would always eventually kind of like call out those very same people, like, hey, look, I've been on this, I've been on that. Doesn't mean I endorse it, and in fact, you probably ought to look out for these people. It was he would do that like with every one of these platforms.
Yeah, I remember specifically him, like he would go on Alex Jones and just he'd do whatever it was, a half an hour little slot or something like that, and he would be personable and polite, and he would talk in his usual calm cadence, very, very soberly, and consciously about whatever the subject was. But then these comments would come up, on his own show, maybe a couple of weeks later, about people really need to be careful about the superstars of the truth movement, how these guys are big money men who've been clearly set up. I mean, there's the guys who've had serious financial backing, and you have to be wary of that.
Yeah.
So
So that was always interesting to see. That was always it was always fun to kind of see that, quite frankly, to see just Alan Watt come forward with them, and he just kind of I wouldn't say skewers a certain person, but just like, hey, look, be careful, So I always liked that, respect that, found it interesting. And
valuable,
very valuable to the people who could because it's very difficult. It's I think it was a very difficult thing he was doing, and a very tall order he was putting out there, because the way this stuff usually works is you have a show, you have a source of information that comes out there. It gives you all these ideas about the world that in most cases, the creator of these shows and stuff just wants you to just take these ideas and just repeat them and do nothing more. And he would reject that, be like, hey, look, I'm putting out these ideas, but that's not, I'm not making this brand. I'm not making this cult where I want to control your entire worldview. That's actually, I do believe he was very much trying his best to avoid that, which is antithetical to the usual kind of way about going about this, where the big names they specifically want you to do that. They want you to become a cult member. Yeah.
No, they want a movement. They want team colors and team slogans, and I mean these are the internet's more full of them now than ever. Mm-hmm. So for every niche, there's an endless list of these narcissists, I want to call them, for the most part, to be honest, who are about the fame, quite clearly, who will create big sensation and big drama because they want attention and money, and it's fun. Oh, yeah. And he was not one of those people. He had no interest in that, and he said himself many times, I could have made a lot of money doing what I'm doing, and I had many offers, but I needed to stay true to myself. Mm-hmm. And man, you got to respect that.
Oh yeah,
It's a huge sacrifice to do what he did because he believed in it. I'm not going to be compromised by anybody. I will say what I want to say in the way I want to say it.
Yeah. I think
that's a rare thing.
Yeah, it is. I think a lot because he has plenty of detractors too. I don't think I believe that his detractors should at least give him that because he deserves it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like he doesn't get enough credit for that. But definitely that's who he was. You could see that. And I mean, there were so many